Hi, Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us today on this beautiful Wednesday. My name is Edmund. I'm here with Jennifer and Cindy. We are the attorneys at Amity Law Group, and we wanted to come on live today to serve our community during these challenging times. Since we're still in the higher risk parts of the coronavirus, COVID-19, we want to make sure that families in Rosemead, San Gabriel Valley, Los Angeles, that we're all protected. So in the event that something happens to us as parents, we want to make sure that we have a plan in place to take care of our children, our spouse, and ourselves. Because as you know, this virus is so deadly. It's not a normal flu, and it can really land you in the hospital for an extended period of time. And so we know that a lot of you have, based on what we hear on the news, there's a lot of fear, a lot of stress, a lot of confusion that's making people do nothing but stay home and watch Netflix or watch the news. And so our goal today is to empower you to do something for your family, to make sure they're protected. So what we're going to do today, I'm going to pull up my slides to make it easier for all of you. We're going to talk about the top 3 estate planning mistakes most of us are probably making during COVID-19 and how you can avoid them today. So we're not only going to tell you the mistakes that are very common, but we're also going to show you some of the steps to take in order to make sure you're not making those mistakes. So let's start with mistake number 1.
Okay, so I'll talk about mistake number 1. That is not having what's called a HIPAA release or HIPAA authorization. So as most of us know, your medical records are confidential. So once you hit a certain age, I believe it's 12, even with children, medical records are not just automatically released to anybody within the family. You have to authorize the hospital and authorize the doctor to release those to certain individuals that you believe can help make certain healthcare decisions for you. So a lot of times, you may come to an attorney or go to the hospital and they will ask you to prepare an advanced healthcare directive. And that document is, in a sense, is to appoint somebody who you trust to help make healthcare decisions for you in the event you become incapacitated and are no longer able to make those healthcare decisions for yourself. But oftentimes we forget about the HIPAA release or the HIPAA authorization. Those two, I would say, kind of go hand in hand. So in one sense, you appoint somebody to have that right to make a healthcare decision for you. And then on the other side, you want them to be informed. You want them to know exactly what's going on with you, have access to your medical records in order to make a educated, informed decision. So you want to make sure you have this HIPAA release, HIPAA authorization signed because, the risk, again, like Edmund said, is higher currently because of COVID. So in case something does happen to you, in case you are hospitalized, and you're so sick that you cannot, opinionate or voice what you would like done for you, you want to make sure that those that you trust, those that you love, will be able to do that for you. So make sure you have this HIPAA authorization, HIPAA release prepared. And so, again, what is the solution, right? In case you are hospitalized, you want to make sure, number 1, you have an advanced healthcare directive. Okay, so that's the document that you appoint somebody to have the authority to make a healthcare decision for you in the event you cannot. Number 2, you want to make sure that you have the HIPAA authorization as well, because that allows them to look at your medical records, allows them to be informed of what medical condition you have. Okay, so those are the very important 2 documents to have. Make sure that you give copies of these documents once you have them to your healthcare provider and your family. So make sure that maybe your primary care physician has those on hand and has those in your medical forms and your medical records, and make sure your family member who you appoint to have these rights, make sure that they have a copy of them as well. If you already have these documents, just review them. Just take a quick peek at them, make sure that they're up to date, make sure that you haven't changed your mind as to who you want that authorization given to, and just take a quick review and confirm that it is up to date, and make sure that it's signed, it's notarized, and witnessed if necessary. So those two documents, I would say, at least for the current condition that we're in right now, are very important. Risk is higher, so in the event you do get hospitalized or you do fall ill to COVID or any other virus out there, that you have these two documents on hand.
Yeah, and one of the other mistakes that we hear a lot, and could be a really big issue during this time, is keeping your spouse and children in the dark, not letting your family know what the plan is. So does your spouse and children know your estate planning wishes, what they are, and who will take care of your medical and financial needs if you become incapacitated? Do they know who will receive what? Do you have an estate planning binder that lists all your assets, real properties, financial accounts, life insurance? These are very complicated accounts, can be, and they can be scattered all over the place. So, is it scattered all over the place, and can anyone actually make any sense of it when the time and the need arises? How would your son feel if you were giving more to your daughter? The lack of communication creates misunderstandings and hard feelings, and can certainly destroy relationships. So how do you address this? What's the solution for this? Well, obviously, is to tell your family the details, involve your family, let them know. Don't save it for tomorrow. Don't save it for the next day. You never know what's going to happen in these uncertain times. You really don't know. So it's very important to involve your family. And a lot of people are still doing a lot of the social distancing. So do FaceTime or Zoom, have a family meeting, whether it's in person or whether it's over the phone or online, but get it done and have everyone be on the same page. Tell them where your documents are. If you've kept them in the safe, if you've kept them in your bedroom, under your bed, you gotta let people know. It's really important. If people don't know, then you really have not given it any effect. So the only way that these documents have any effect is that people know about them. You've let people know. Tell them how you want to be cared for if you are in the hospital. So that's something that people don't like to talk about. They don't want to think about being in the hospital. They don't want to imagine themselves in the hospital, but it could happen. And if it's important that you are treated in a certain way, then you got to communicate that and let people know. Make sure your estate planning binder lists all your assets. So if you have an estate planning binder, or if you don't have one, make one, create a list, and include all your assets in that list. There's no point in keeping it private. Maybe you're afraid someone's going to come and take your documents and do something with it, but that kind of stuff is very rare. And there are solutions to that, credit monitoring and such, but it's just so important that your children, your heirs, your family, they know where all your assets are. These are things that you've worked very hard for, and you don't want it to be forgotten or go to waste. If you don't have an estate plan, involve your spouse and adult children and create one. We have clients whose children arrange meetings with us, and children are very, very involved. It creates family harmony. Lets the parents know that the children care and the children want to be involved. So that's very helpful for aging parents and parents who need a little bit of help. Get an estate plan done. Really, it's just that simple. The solution to this is just get it done. Protect yourself if you become hospitalized. Protect your assets from probate court. Ensure your assets are inherited by the right people. And lastly, have that peace of mind that it is done.
So this brings us to the third most common estate planning mistake that people are making during COVID-19, which is not updating your estate plan. So let's say you have a will or a living trust or advanced healthcare directive, power of attorney. When was the last time you updated it? Was it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Make sure it's still aligned with what you want for your family. And another important reason to update your estate plan is laws change all the time, especially tax laws that can affect your estate plan. So make sure the estate plan is updated to align with those legal changes. And another thing is the HIPAA authorization that we talked about. That is a relatively new law. And so a lot of people have a healthcare directive, but they don't have a HIPAA release form. And so if something happens to them, even though they have an advanced healthcare directive, their children, their spouse won't have access to their medical records because they don't have a HIPAA release. And so their children would have to go to probate court, get a conservatorship over them in order to obtain medical records. So make sure your plan is up to date with the new laws. And your personal and financial situation may have changed. You might have a new addition to the family. You might have purchased a new home. You might have a net worth over the estate tax exemption, and so you might need to do estate tax planning, right? So make sure that you talk to an attorney, go back to your attorney, talk to them if they don't have ongoing client care support services for you, but make sure it's up to date. And the big question is really, how do you know your plan's going to work if it's not up